Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you've had a wonderful Thursday. Yeah, we are edging closer to Friday and heading into the weekend. That means we also continue to edge closer and closer to the resumption of football officially, away from, the preseason engagements from some of your respective clubs. However, things have been, it's been a bit of a busy day in regards to the transfer window. Lots of news, coming through, lots of progress made on different fronts or on different deals and things of that nature, really. So tonight we'll be discussing that and more, among other things, from your favorite clubs. And news coming in from Manchester United, news coming in from Liverpool, Newcastle, Galatasaray, Napoli, and so much more, and so much more. So we'll be discussing that and everything in that respect. So, anyways, as we get ourselves set for tonight's broadcast, allow me have our audios tested in just a bit to make sure that everything does check out for the purposes of success of this broadcast. Otherwise, it's really, really indeed a pleasure to be back here once again for another engagement. Surprisingly, I think this is our fourth live, broadcast for today. We had 3 of them earlier on. Of course, the usual one in the morning. Then we had one in the late afternoon. Then as soon as we had broken off, approximately 20-30 minutes apart, we had to return back because there was some bit of breaking news that we thought we should share with you. And on that note, therefore, I wish to say thank you to all those that were part of all those multiple broadcasts throughout the course of the day. Thank you so much for the love and support. Thank you so much for being with us. Zero Rikram, the Liverpool fan, was part of that left afternoon, broadcast, although our power was cut short, so we had a disconnection with internet, which meant a disruption to our broadcast. So it took a couple of minutes before we resumed it, and yeah, we managed to continue it and conclude it. That one lasted about 35 minutes, while the one after that lasted about 13 minutes. So go check out under the live section, and you'll be able to see those broadcasts and get to see what we're discussing about. Leave me a comment, leave me a like on those broadcasts as well. But it was worthwhile indeed, as we spoke about, those reports. So tonight, we're going to be talking about Bryan Mbeumo. We're going to be talking about Hugo Ekitike. We're going to be talking about Victor Osimhen as his move to Galatasaray edges closer and closer, following very positive talks between between the Turkish champions versus the Italian champions as well on the other side. So that's what we'll be discussing. So as you join us, endeavor to like the broadcast, but also do let me know where you're joining us from. And then, of course, like the case always is, we will get to take our eyes through the latest from the world of art, from the rumor mill, the transfer gossip and everything in that respect. We'll also get to discuss that as well during this broadcast. Hi, Bruno. How are you? Thank you for being here with us. Good to have you as always. Kindly like the broadcast. Do us that absolute favor, that absolute honor, and like the broadcast so that for while you're still here with us, really. So, anyways, I do not know how long this one will be, but I suspect it won't be as long as the discussion we had yesterday, because last night that discussion went on for about an hour, an hour and 49 minutes, and it was worthwhile, really. I thank you to all those that made it worthwhile for us. But tonight, I'm not feeling the very best of myself. So you will indulge me if we do not run this one to go as long as you may hope. Anyways, let's kick things off with Man United, because they've been making the headlines today, all for the right reasons. as they made their third bid for Bryan Mbeumo, and that news was revealed in the late afternoon. As far as East African time, was concerned. Of course, that new fresh bid, the third bid, is worth 70 million pounds as total, but it is only 65 of that is guaranteed, and 5 million pounds as expected add-ons. Man United are waiting for feedback from Brentford in regards to that proposal before they can move ahead with discussions over what the nitty-gritties would look like, and perhaps also get to negotiate terms and conditions on the player side. That exclusive was revealed by David Austin of The Athletic, saying that Manchester United have make improved bid to sign Bryan Mbeumo from Brentford. A new offer for the 26-year-old, although he's 25 years of age. He does turn 26, I think, on the 7th of August. The 25-year-old forward worth 65 million pounds fixed plus 5 million pounds in add-ons. Manchester United waiting Brentford's response as they work to close a deal for the Cameroon international and top target. Now, we did speak about this deal before. I did do a shot for you guys in the last couple of, I think, was it last week, by the way? And we've spoken about this, that Man United were looking forward to wrapping this deal up right in time before they fly out for their US tour. It is still the hope, although time is increasingly not on their side. They need to expedite things. However, this is like I said, this is the third bid for Manchester United for Bryan Mbeumo. The first, coming almost 6 weeks ago when they put in that bid worth 55 million pounds, 45 million pounds guaranteed fees, plus 10 million pounds in expected add-ons. That one was quickly rejected. They eventually, after some time, I think it was after like 3 weeks, they went back in with the second bid. That was a total of 62.5 million pounds, 55 million pounds as guaranteed fees, plus 7.5 million euros in expected add-ons. So that was their, second bid. And it was equally turned down until today when they have managed to submit that, bid. Hello, Henry. What about Newcastle? We're going to discuss Newcastle in the bit because in any case, we ought to discuss it right now because they are very well connected to Manchester United is a third bid for Bryan Mbeumo. So over the last course of a month, Manchester United fans have been growing agitated and perhaps furious with their club due to their slow activity in the transfer window. They are failing to close deals, they are failing to move on players and things of that nature. We do know that they have more than 5 players within their ranks that they are looking to move on this transfer window. That's Marcus Rashford, Garnacho, Anthony, Jordan Sancho, Tyler Malacia, players like Luke Shaw, some of the players that they do want to move on, and yet they've neither received any offers for them, and nor have they tried to offer them to potential suitors and see how that could develop. So it's been a bit of a slow start to the transfer window for Manchester United, although they have already secured 2 players in Diego Leon as well as Matthias Cunha from Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, Man United is a bid, third bid for Bryan Mbeumo came just hours after after it had been revealed that Newcastle were expressing interest in signing Yohan Wissa from Brentford. Now, the argument is simple on this case because Keith Andrews has told his bosses and his miners that he wouldn't want to lose, all their best players in this transfer window. They've already lost the #1 goalkeeper in Mark Flaken, who left to join Bayer Leverkusen in Germany, and they replaced him with Liverpool's Kelleher. Then they've lost their captain, Christian Nørgaard. That's the Danish international, 31 years of age, who completed a move to Arsenal in a deal worth a total of 15 million pounds, being 10 million pounds as guaranteed fees, plus the 5 million pounds to be in expected add-ons. So that's where the situation came from. Henry says, if we talk about soccer, what about a guy called Quenz Menes? He is from Sunderland and he is scrapping Philly cheese from helmets and donning the mask for the soccer fields. Please give a honest opinion about that. We will get to discuss that at a later note. Hello, my brother. That's Mariam Nalmansi says, hello, my brother. Any good news from Liverpool? Yes, there's some good news from Liverpool, and we'll be discussing that in just a bit. Kindly, guys, kindly like the broadcast. But also, if you're new here with us, please consider subscribing to the channel. Then Henry says, I'm talking and asking questions, but you're ignoring. I can only read, one comment at a time and respond at the same time. So you'll have to please be patient with me. I cannot read the comments at the pace with which they flow in, while I'm also trying to drive points home. Yeah, so you'll have to be patient with me. Anyways, so like I said, Manchester United's third bid came in the wake of, reported interest of Newcastle in Yohan Wissa. Now, how did Newcastle arrive to having interest in Yohan Wissa? It came, in the aftermath of having a bid worth £70 million rejected by Eintracht Frankfurt for Hugo Ekitike. And you could say that Newcastle's exploits in the transfer window have forced hands to move on two different sides. Because on Tuesday, we had Liverpool formally approach Newcastle to try and sign Hugo Ekitike. Then on Wednesday, we had that bid from Newcastle to Eintracht Frankfurt to try and sign Hugo Ekitike, which was turned down. Newcastle tried to, continue with talks, but eventually they cooled down their interest. And then today, Liverpool formally went in and put in a bid for, in the excess apparently, of 80 million euros to try and sign the 23-year-old. And reports do have it that they have already agreed to personal terms on a 6-year contract with the 23-year-old French forward, who only signed with Eintracht Frankfurt permanently last summer. That was during the summer of 2024, having been part of them initially on loan from PSG in France. So in his full debut campaign, he managed to post a goal tally of 15 goals and provided 8 assists in the German Bundesliga. But overall, across all competitions, it was a tally of 22 goals and 12 assists. That's the player that Liverpool are trying to sign. They had expressed their interest as soon as the transfer window opened. Chelsea were equally interested in his services. They tried to approach Eintracht Frankfurt for a deal, although at the time Eintracht Frankfurt were demanding for 100 million euros for the French forward. Now, it's not to say that stance has shifted really that much, but given their good relationship and recent developments, it is expected that they could somehow soften their stance in the asking fee for Hugo Ekitike. So there you have it, Liverpool fans. That's the biggest news you've had today in regards to your approach formally to Eintracht Frankfurt to try and sign Hugo Ekitike, because again, this was brought by the Athletic, among other multiple sources, that Liverpool are advancing in talks to sign Hugo Ekitike from Eintracht Frankfurt. Negotiations for the 23-year-old forward progressing on package worth in the excess of 80 million euros. French youth international wants Liverpool, so personal terms are not an issue. So it was quickly after that that then Ben Jacobs of Gimme Sport and Talk Sport came out to reveal that the player had agreed to personal terms on a 6-year deal with the Reds and reigning Premier League champions. So that's the situation regarding Liverpool. But you can see how everything is sort of connected. That Newcastle gave up all their pursuit for Hugo Ekitike, and then Liverpool made their advance. And once they gave up their advance on Hugo Ekitike, they returned to the Premier League and made an approach. And expressed their interest in signing Yohan Wissa, a player that Nottingham Forest have tried to sign. They did try to sign him in January. They failed at that because they could not meet the £50 million at asking fee for Brentford. They tried again this summer with a bid. That bid was reported to be under £25 million, and then of course it was rejected. And they are still waiting on the flanks. But like I've told you, the new head coach in Keith Andrews has told his bosses he wouldn't want them to lose all their stars in the same transfer window. So now that then takes us back to the Bryan Mbeumo deal. Now, if you're Brentford, you wouldn't want to lose 2 of your forwards in the same transfer window. Bryan Mbeumo scored 20 Premier League goals, provided 7 assists. On the other hand, you have a Yohan Wissa who scored 19 goals and I think provided 4 assists during the course of last campaign. So really, it was an impressive, dynamic duo leading up the lines for Brentford between the 25-year-old Cameroon international and the 28-year-old Democratic Republic of Congo player. So because Newcastle have expressed that interest, and Man United know that Newcastle are capable of firming up their interest with a reasonable bid for Yohan Wissa, that's why they are acting quickly to try and wrap up a bid for Bryan Mbeumo, because they know one thing for sure, that if Newcastle were to wrap up a deal for Yohan Wissa, then Brentford could easily, turn their head and say, no, we're not letting go of Bryan Mbeumo this summer, having lost already Yohan Wissa. So that's why they are trying to act really, really quick and get things out of the way but also in time for their US tour. And so that's the situation that has sort of forced Newcastle's hand that has forced Manchester United's hand in regards to trying to firm up their interest in Bryan Mbeumo. Now the player in himself has not expressed desire to leave at the club in Brentford, but if he is to leave, he has already told potential suitors that he would only make a switch to Old Trafford. And so remember, at the start of the summer, multiple clubs were interested in his services. That was Chelsea, that was Arsenal, Newcastle themselves were all interested. But he told all of them that it is at Carrington that where he would love to train and then play all his football at Old Trafford. So while Manchester United may be still down in the trenches, they still have that pool. They still a host of players who aspire to play for Manchester United. The likes of Matthias Cunha. Again, we also had a whole lot of interest for him across the Premier League and away from the Premier League. And he told all suitors that it is Manchester United that he wanted to play for. And that's where he went, because they activated that 62.5 million release clause from Wolverhampton Wanderers. So that's the situation there with, when it comes to Man United in their pursuit for Bryan Mbeumo, as well as Newcastle's exploits, because they are trying to look for a partner for Alexander Isak. Remember, they already lost Callum Wilson on a free transfer. Sorry, his contract went up and he left the club officially. So that's the situation regarding that. And then on the side of Liverpool, we know, unfortunately, they lost Diego Jota, and they are also open to letting go of Darwin Núñez. Now, they are open to letting go of Darwin Núñez. Initially, they held discussions with Napoli, but Napoli could not meet the asking demands They could not meet the asking demands in terms of the transfer fee for Liverpool, and they moved on to Lorenzo Luca from Udinese, and that's the player they've signed initially on a season-long loan worth 9 million euros, plus an obligation to buy him for 26 million euros, at the end of the season, with 5 million euros in expected add-ons on that front. So that's the situation regarding Hugo Ekitike, Bryan Mbeumo, Yohan Wissa, Newcastle's pursuits, as well as Napoli in relation to Darwin Núñez at Liverpool, and everything to do with that component. Okay, I'm now back to your comments. Okay, I think I read that already. I'm talking and asking questions, but you're ignoring me, bro. Roy Keane was caught at Alexander Hill with Hoxie on the backers. They played for Swansea, and Noxie decided to pull the kegs down Roy Keane and notched him off, etc. Then you say, did Gabriel try it on with Patty for transfer to Wolves? I'm not aware of that. Please answer both questions. I'm curious of your opinion. I'm waiting. Waffle talk answer. Then you wrote something to do with potato. Answer my questions. Stop the waffle, son, and answer my questions. Thank you from Nalmasi. You're not listening. uh, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry you feel that way. But unfortunately, if you can't be patient, then you cannot sustain a discussion about football, because the questions you're asking are not a yes or no. It's not about you ask about Harry, Roy Keane, and I say, oh yes, and then I move on to the next question. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So I'm sorry you feel that way, that you're feeling left out with all your multiple questions. I'm going to unsubscribe in 6 seconds. So be it. So be it. If that's what you so wish, Henry. Just do that, as opposed to thinking that your comment ought to be read at the exact opportune time while other matters are still being explained as well. So that's it. You are terrible. You do not engage with your community. If that's what you feel, that's okay. Now what next for Liverpool? I mean, we await because they are still in negotiations with Eintracht Frankfurt to see if they can reach, if they can reach an agreement on a transfer fee, and then before the player is given the green light to make the move from Eintracht Frankfurt to join Liverpool. Then Liverpool also remain interested in bringing in a defender and a winger as well as a central midfielder, but some of those incomings could depend on potential departures during the course of the same transfer window. So we will have to wait it out and see. I'm trying to filters. I'm trying to look out for a comment about Felix of Sunderland. Let's see when it comes to that. Let's see when it comes to that. But I'm not really aware much about Felix. I do not know. Is he a player, or I mean, I do not know about any player called Felix or Felix, the way you've written it. A Sunderland player. I do not know anyone in that respect. Okay, thanks, my brother. That's Mariam Nalmasi. It's been a pleasure being with you. Hello, good evening. That's Kayode Ogudeji from Nigeria. I think he's an Arsenal fan. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Kayode Ogudeji from Nigeria. Always a pleasure to have you on the broadcast, my brother. Kindly like the broadcast, but also kindly like the broadcast while you're still here with us. So Victor Osimhen is also close to completing that move to Galatasaray, as Napoli and Galatasaray continue to negotiate on the structure of the deal that sees them pay the release clause of 75 million euros. That's the structure that they've spent most time on. Kayode says, how are you doing, my dear brother? I'm doing well. I hope you are all right as well on that side. So this is according to Fabrizio Romano. He says Galatasaray and Napoli are at the final stages for Victor Osimhen deal after positive talks today. Galatasaray is set to pay 40 million euros, and now that's the fee up front, and the 35 million euros by the end of 2026. Also won't be able to sell the player to Italian clubs for 2 years. Guarantees and sell-on clause now as final topics. Now, when it comes to you see, these are some of the clauses. Now, Napoli are telling Galatasaray, you're signing Victor Osimhen, but you cannot sell him to any Italian club in the next 2 years. You see, that's a condition in the contract, that they are discussing over. The Napoli also want a sell-on clause. I mean, I do not see how you get to buy a player worth 75 million euros in a release clause, and you also accept to have a sell-on clause. I just do not see how that works. But anyways, it's all part of business. It's all part of negotiations. Let's just wait and see how everything will, progress in the coming days between those two parties, because those negotiations have been going on for quite some time, really. The player already agreed to, personal terms in principle, Galatasaray on a 3-year contract. Kayode says, what about the deal for Gyökeres to Arsenal? Now, Again, the Victor Gyökeres deal to Arsenal is still at the same stage, pretty much like that of Victor Osimhen to Galatasaray. Transfer fees were agreed, and the quorums are over expected adults. Unfortunately, the difference here is that for Galatasaray and Napoli, it's not to do with expected add-ons, but it was to do with the structure of how the 75 million euro is paid, and then Napoli wanting to insert a sell-on clause, and among other conditions within the transfer agreement. Then while on the side of Arsenal, they did agree to that 63.5 million euro fee for the transfer of the player, plus 10 million euros in expected adults. Now, Sporting Lisbon are just trying to play hardball. They want, the add-ons to be as simple, to be achieved quite very quickly and be paid there and then, while Arsenal want to spread them across, different achievements. For example, apparently Sporting Lisbon want that if the player makes 20 Premier League appearances, then that should qualify them to get 2.5 million euros in expected add-ons. If he makes 10 appearances in the UEFA Champions League, then Sporting Lisbon get 2.5 million euros. In expected add-ons. So they want those sort of simple terms, and I mean those are that essentially what that means is that those add-ons will all have been achieved before we even reach the end of the season. For example, just imagine, let's say Arsenal play in the UEFA Champions League. You're going to play 8 games during the league table format, and if you finish outside the top 8, then you're going to play 2 games in the playoff. That's between 9th place and 24th. To determine the next 8 that add themselves to the initial 8 to make the round of 16. So you have a double header there. So that means by that you played 10 games, and that would mean that Arsenal would then have to pay 2.5 million euros in add-ons to Sporting Lisbon, and yet Arsenal are saying it shouldn't be that simple. One, they are saying if they win the UEFA Champions League, if they win the Premier League title, then that is when some of those add-ons should be achieved. And Sporting Lisbon are trying to play hardball to say no, we want them more achievable. They want things like if he scores 10 goals, in a Premier League season, and then they should get paid maybe another 1.5 million euros. So that 10 million euros in expected add-ons, that's what they are trying to negotiate about. The players, representatives are in London. Sporting Lisbon's representatives are in London. But like I said, I think first of all, Sporting Lisbon feel a bit embarrassed in the manner in which this deal sort of happened, especially during the course of last weekend, because the Sporting Lisbon president had just come out to issue a statement about how they're going to stick it out, how the player can't have it his way, and how they cannot be sort of for lack of a better word, be bullied into selling the player for a value that they believe he's not worth. And he said that those interested in him should just pay his market value and get the player. Otherwise, they're making it hard for the player to move on. Otherwise, that they would be happy keeping him for the next 3 years, and that he would have to apologize to the group and also be fined because he refused to return to Sporting Lisbon for pre-season training and things of that nature, really. So, and yet less than 24 hours in the wake of those statements, Arsenal had agreed to a fee after Victor Gyökeres' representatives or agents opted to sacrifice what their commission will be out of the sale of the player, which is a 10%. So once they reneged on that, Arsenal were able to reach, an agreement on a transfer fee to agree to a deal, a total package deal that they will be happy with. Now, once a total fee is agreed, then you go to payment structure. You have the guaranteed fees, monies that must be paid regardless of whatever circumstance, and then you have those add-ons. Now, add-ons are usually based on certain achievements. For example, if Victor Gyökeres plays, let's say 30 out of the 38 Premier League games, maybe you pay us 1 million euros. If he scores 20 Premier League goals plus, then you pay us another 1 million euros. So Those are some of the conditions that they are trying to negotiate over. Sporting Lisbon want literally the entire 10 million are paid within a year by simply, setting very, very easy, achievable add-ons. For example, if let's say a player, if let's say Arsenal advance to the knockout stages of the UEFA Champions League, then they get 2.5. If a player makes 10 Premier League appearances, another 2.5. So that means 5 million euros paid in add-ons. 10 Champions League appearances, another 2.5. That's 7.5. And if he scores maybe 5 goals in the opening 15 games of the Premier League, then another 2.5. That's how simple they want it. While Arsenal are saying no, it cannot be that simple, really. And those are things that they are still trying to negotiate over. Sporting Lisbon have been known to be stubborn negotiators. For those of you that do remember the deal that saw Pedro Porro leave Sporting Lisbon to Nottingham Forest, I mean, it was also on the verge of collapse just because the Sporting Lisbon president, that's Francesco Varandas, decided to change his mind, just like that. So they are still at the stalemate when it comes to those add-ons, but let's wait and see if they are able to reach an agreement or a total agreement in the next couple of days that will come henceforth. So we'll have to wait it out and simply see how everything will develop in the coming days regarding those, details when it comes to the add-ons. But the expectation remains that Arsenal will eventually find the breakthrough and we get the here we go for the player to do his medicals. Anticipation have been that by Friday we could have reached an agreement, but so far it has yet to come. Away from Victor Osimhen, Inter Milan have informed Atlanta that about their opening bid or offer of worth about 40 million euros to try and sign Ademola Lookman. That's, I think, the 27-year-old Nigerian international who is expected to leave Atlanta this summer. Now, however, Atlanta do insist that they want a total package of 50 million euros. Multiple clubs have been linked with the potential move for Ademola Lookman, including Atletico de Madrid, but so far it's Inter Milan that have firmed up their interest. So Lookman wants to leave and hopes the club will facilitate his exit, but Atalanta keep their position on no green light to the Italian clubs at 40 million euros. So now the situation with Ademola Lookman is that Atlanta could be willing to accept 40 million euros for Ademola Lookman for as long as it's not they're not selling to a fellow Italian a club. But if they are selling to an Italian Serie A club, then they want at least 50 million euros. That's the expectation on that front. Then also quickly, okay, we've spoken about that. Then Erik ten Hag today was speaking about his prodigal son in Antony. There've been multiple reports during the course of this transfer window linking Bayer Leverkusen with the potential move for Manchester United's Antony. And when he was asked about that, here is what he had to say. He said, he has a great quality. I signed him twice. He was like a son to me. He is still a son to me. We are not interested in him at the moment, but we will see what happens in the future. That's Erik ten Hag speaking about the possibility of Bayer Leverkusen signing Antony from Manchester United. Then also, and Roma are getting closer to reaching an agreement to sign Ivan Ferguson from Brighton and Hove Albion. So they are edging closer to Ivan Ferguson from Brighton and Hove Albion. The agreement is moving to final stages with talks ongoing to get the green light from Brighton ASAP. Ferguson wants AC Roma and the deal is now advancing fast. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. Remember, AC Roma are going to be under the charges of Gian Piero Gasperini, who was formerly at Atlanta. Thiago Almada to Atletico de Madrid. That one is a done deal. That's a done deal really. So many other deals happening. Also, Manchester City did confirm the signing of 18-year-old Norwegian top talent Sivey or Bray Bray Naipan. I do not know if I pronounced the name well, but that's the deal. He was wanted by several top by top European clubs, but City's proposal as a transfer fee will be 15 million euros. Now that's quite an enormous outlay on a on an 18-year-old. Very, very impressive stuff. But let's wait and see in regards to those developments as well. Basically, those have been some of the major headlines during the course of the day. We do wait on what will advance when, but things continue to happen in this transfer window, and we'll continue to bring them to you as soon as they happen, and those talking points that are worth discussing. Also, Pierre Aubameyang is officially parting ways with Al-Qadash. He scored, I think, 26 goals in 36 appearances in the league last season. And Olympique Marseille are moving fast to try and resign him. They are willing to offer him a 2-year contract. Al-Ettifaq have also made an ambitious approach. Al-Ettifaq have caused their interest in Real Sociedad's Geraldo Bacca until they hear whether Aubameyang wants to join. Not an easy deal to pull off, especially with European interest, but they are trying. So Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, it will boil down to him on where he wants to play next. Does he want to return to Europe, particularly in France, where Olympique Marseille want to sign him, or would he rather stay in the Saudi Pro League and possibly make him a little more, make for himself a little more cash? Let's wait and see on how that will develop. But that's according to Ben Jacobs. Then Saudi Pro League clubs are alert to Vinicius Junior's situation and are prepared to make a world record bid. Vinicius Junior has said he wants to stay at Real Madrid. New deal not signed, but could be soon. Al Ahly, the club in mind, talks with Saudi for a year, and though not shut, but not shut to one day joining. So I told you about the situation regarding Vinicius Junior. Apparently, his representatives are demanding that he be the most paid player, in as far as apologies on that. They demand that he be the most paid player at Real Madrid, and apparently they want up to 30 million euros per annum, and I do not see how that happens really. It's not that Real Madrid are incapable of paying those kinds of wages, but they're just not willing to bend to that kind of pressure. Because if you do offer that to Vinicius Junior, what's it not to say that in 2 years' time, Kylian Mbappe demands the same or even more? Then Jude Bellingham gets to demand more of the same, in a couple of years' time, like that. So they do not want to open that kind of worms to that kind of situation, really. So, and like I said before, for those of you that were part of our morning broadcast, is that Florentino Perez is a president that is not afraid to cut off an arm to save the body. And should it necessitate that they have to move on Vinicius Junior for the sake of tranquility in that squad, then they won't hesitate to pull that trigger, because Florentino Perez has shown that he is capable of selling players even when they are in their prime. And a prime example is of some of those is you remember when they let go of Cristiano Ronaldo and he went to join, Juventus. You remember Angelo Di Maria in 2014 when he joined Manchester United. You remember the case of Mesut Ozil when he joined Arsenal in 2013. So these were all players in their prime that they let go. You remember Gonzalo Higuain. I think he joined Napoli at the time. So Florentino Perez is the kind of president that is capable of, waking up and making that kind of decision, because they'll simply look at it like, he's a very, very good player. They wouldn't want to lose him, but if it does come to that, then they won't hesitate to, cut off the arm to save the body. They will simply assess the situation and say, look here, We do have Kylian Mbappe who can play off the left, and we do have Rodrigo Goes who can play off the left. If we sell him for a record transfer fee, which if it is to Saudi Pro League clubs, you're bound to get at least anywhere between 180 to 200 million pounds for him, which then means you can pull that money, go out and look at a player like Alexander Isak and sign him as your target man for a striker, the lead striker, even though you have Gonzalo Garcia, and then you have Kylian Mbappe playing off the left wing, coming off the left wing, and you move on with that, or you go out and maybe sign instead Michael Olise from Bayern Munich, or you go and try to sign Desiree Doué from Paris Saint-Germain, or you go. I mean, you can do all sorts of things. I mean, they are Real Madrid. They do use their brand name to trade on players, and they've done that for a couple of years. So I do not think that Real Madrid will feel bullied or cornered in this kind of situation when it comes to contract renewal talks with Vinicius Jr. Then the other news is regarding Wolverhampton Wanderers inducting Diego Jota in their Wall of Fame. And said it's a tribute that honors both his remarkable achievements for the club and the deep impact his passing has had on the footballing world. So they are inducting Diego Jota in the Wall of Fame. There at Wolverhampton Wanderers. Used to wear just 18 for them. Remember, he initially joined them on loan from Atletico de Madrid. That was around 2017, and he helped them earn promotion to the Premier League around 2018, around that time. And then they went on to do good things with Nuno Espirito Santo as the manager at the time. And then after that, of course, I think after 2 years, 2018, 2019, and then 2019, 2020, after those 2 seasons, he went on and joined Liverpool. Then also, this is according to Ben Jacobs, he says that West Ham are the latest club to inquire on Jack Grealish, although the finances on any deal make it difficult. Everton still remain keen if Manchester City can sanction a loan for the 29-year-old England attacking midfielder. I mean, this again, for those of you that have been part of us for the longest periods of time, you remember we spoke about this Jack Grealish situation. And I told you that any club that may want to sign him is going to find it a bit hard because, one, he still has 2 years left to his current contract. He's well aware that Man City want to move him on, but the fact that he's on really, really high wages is going to be a sticking point for whoever may want to sign him. He's been linked with the potential move to the likes of Napoli, to the likes of Bayer Leverkusen, to Everton, Newcastle, Tottenham Hotspurs, and yet when you look around, you do wonder. I do not think any of those clubs is going to be willing to pay him 300 grand that is currently on at Manchester City. So that means he would need to take a significant pay cut if he's to move to any of those clubs. But also it boils down to what his ambitions are. Remember, like I keep saying, it's a World Cup season. After the new starting season will be into the FIFA World Cup that will be played in the United States of America, Mexico, and Canada. So he wants to afford himself as much playing time as he can get and hope that that translates into a call back to the England national team for the FIFA World Cup squad under the charges of Thomas Tuchel. So let's wait it out and see how things will develop. Then also, according to Ben Jacobs, he does report that Wolves are hoping John Ayres can undergo a medical next week, although nothing is booked yet. Club working through formal steps, including visa process after agreeing a fee with Fluminense. So let's wait and see. But otherwise, those have been some of the hottest reports from the world of transfers during the course of today. We will keep our eyes peeled out for much more, to come in the next couple of, hours and possibly days. But yeah, that's the gist of the conversation. For most of them, we've gone through them. We told you about Sunderland exploring the deal to sign Granit Xhaka from Bayer Leverkusen, but they are not the only ones interested in the services of the 32-year-old Switzerland International, AC Milan are also interested, as well as Nayom SC from the Saudi Pro League. Then Marcus Tavernier is a target for West Ham from AFC Bournemouth. Man United have held talks with the camp of Brighton's Pavis Estupinan. Let's wait and see on that situation. Then Leeds United did reach an agreement in principle for Hoffenheim and German midfielder Anton Stach, 26 years of age. Then also Bayern Munich remain in negotiations with Stuttgart over the transfer of Nick Woltmed. So apologies on that internet glitch. I think the internet is trying to tell us that we should say bye-bye. So anyways, like I said, Bayern Munich remain in negotiations with Stuttgart over the transfer of Nick Woltmed. They've already agreed on personal terms in principle. The player is keen on the move, but they are yet to agree on the transfer fee. Their bid was around £43 million plus 4.4 in expected add-ons, but that was turned down. Let's see how things will develop in the coming days. Then apparently Juventus are exploring conditions of signing Marcus Rashford from Manchester United, who are also for whom Barcelona are equally interested, although they've not firmed up their interest. I told you about Newcastle could make a move for Brentford forward, Yohan Wissa. That one we've really spoken about at great length. Anyways, guys, it's been a pleasure doing this with you today. I can see it's 9 minutes past the top of the hour of midnight. Allow me end this one here and wish you a wonderful rest of the night. Thank you so much for those that have been managed to be part of tonight's broadcast. Kayode Odeji, thank you so much, Henry. Even though you are disgruntled that your questions were not being answered at the timelines you had hoped for, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Mariam Nalmansi, it was a pleasure being with us. So really, thank you so much. Then also, who else? Bruno, always a pleasure to have you join us. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a blessed night, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.